I thought it was really eye-opening and sort of telling of what the impact is that technology has on students and on learning, to find out that the people that are developing that type of technology don't want their children to use it, even though that's what it's made for. I think that shows that it has a lot of negative sides if the people that are making it don't want their own children to be a part of it.
Wow, you really just summed that up real quick, didn't you? Didn't you?
Like she said, it shows like that they understand the mental and like physical odds and stuff, the hurt it does to the person that's using it. So they don't want their kids around it, but they're making money off of it, so they're gonna use it.
I mean, in these private schools that they go to, I know that they're strictly like book-based, and like you just learn better when you use books, not technology. So, I mean, all in all, the rich kids are getting smarter, and we're left to dust.
Right. Yeah, I think it does really show that like the technology must not be the best way to learn if the people that have the most access to it don't want it.
Well, and on top of that, technology is cheaper to use than paper. You're using paper, you have to keep supplying books and more paper. Or technology, it's all one Google Drive, not
Right.
a bunch of paper.
So maybe people are doing it for their own interests and marketing it as it's something awesome for students, when really it's like a loophole and an easy way out for schools.
I think my overall experience with technology in school has been somewhere in between. Like there's obviously the benefits, but then there's also the takeaways. Like you can do schoolwork anywhere at any time, but you can do schoolwork anywhere at any time. So there's no real disconnect between school and free time. Like since you have the access to do it at all times, you're expected to do it at all times.
I would mostly agree with that, and as a senior, throughout all 4 years, I think my experience has been pretty mixed, because on one hand, I do think it's wonderful to be able to have the resources right at your fingertips. On the other hand, I think that in some instances we rely too heavily on it, and it doesn't give the flexibility that I think would benefit a lot of kids.
I mean, teachers being able to contact us out and inside school.
The use of Chromebooks in the classrooms, especially the teacher expectations, I feel like we're too reliant on them. Teachers will base their lesson plans around the Chromebook instead of actually, interacting with said students, and it's just difficult sometimes because I struggle with learning when it's on the Chromebook, because I get distracted so easily. I just want to open new tab after new tab and not pay attention to what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I had a sheet of paper in front of me, I find it much easier to learn that way. So
Yeah, I've known teachers to take off participation points for not having your Chromebook.
even if it's not needed that day.
Yeah, even if it's not needed. And I think I would agree that we are far too reliant on Chromebooks, and personally, I can't do work to the same level on a computer as I can if I have it in my hands, because I have to be able to physically connect to the work. And I feel like the Chromebooks are another way of just trying to make it all the same, if that makes sense.
I also take a lot of notes too on my
Right.
worksheets, and I can't do that on the Chromebook.
Yeah,
I have to write out a
exactly.
note instead of writing next to the sentence that I need. So it's harder for me to take notes that way.
Yeah.
Teachers using Chromebooks like that and expecting us to have it all the time, especially in classes where you don't even use it that much, but if you incorporate it with where you can have paper in front of you and use the Chromebook to do a worksheet or something, that's fine. Using Chromebook, taking notes, or even taking having the teacher present the notes and you can take notes from that. That can work for me, because then you can actually write down what you're learning, so it makes it easier to learn instead of typing it down. Teachers have even said if you're typing it down, then you're not really getting anything out of it. If you're writing it down, it makes it easier to memorize.
And I would add that I don't hate using Chromebooks in class. I just think that there's this dichotomy of either you use the Chromebook for everything or you use the Chromebook for nothing, and I don't think that's productive at all. I think if we were to merge the accessibility of the Chromebooks with the flexibility of, taking notes by hand and doing, a lot of hands-on projects, I think that would be a really great thing.
Yeah, Chromebooks make it way easier to cheat because you can look up pretty much anything else online. And with the amount of work that teachers give nowadays, there's a lot of shortcuts that can be taken, and kids usually just want to get done with their homework, so they will cheat whatever way possible.
It's super easy to copy and paste when we have so much information to gather, so it makes it really, really easy.
Technology minimizes communication skills in students because we're never taught how to properly carry out conversations with our peers and adults around us. A lot of the times we go to YouTube to find videos on a certain curriculum, but it really doesn't allow us to have the face-to-face interaction that we need, especially later in life when we enter the workforce. We're going to need to know how to make eye contact and shake people's hands and carry out those simple conversations that we're not being taught today, because instead of talking to people, we're talking to computer screens.
Yeah, same thing with what you said about the YouTube videos. Sometimes the curriculum is not the same, and sometimes we look up YouTube videos on something that's not the exact same thing as what the teacher wants. So then we end up doing bad on the test because we learned the wrong thing instead of asking the teacher and trying to get information from them instead of YouTube videos.
Because technology definitely enforces that it's better to get a grade rather than learn the material.
Remind and Google Classroom and Canvas are all similar in a way that teachers can communicate with their students. But Remind sends a text message, whereas Google Classroom sends alerts to notifications downloaded on their phone. And Canvas is along with Google Classroom in the same sense that they send notifications.
Okay, it never gives you a disconnect from school because it's constantly sending alerts on your cell phone, and a lot of the times that adds pressure to students because they're not able to get that space from school. We understand that the school times doesn't end at 3 o'clock, but we shouldn't have assignments posted at 12 in the morning and stuff like that. So it's definitely always a reminder and always added pressure that's not good, and it can really stress students out.
I think it was kind of just throughout the entire school year. It was mainly Google Classroom when they were assigning assignments, and it was just, we had this list of assignments, we would finish all of them, then we had more assignments. It kind of was like an unending cycle of just...
Especially if you have it hooked up to your phone and it buzzes every time your teacher posts something new. I guess it just feels like you're never really separated from all the school stuff, so it's just a constant stream of assignment after assignment after assignment, which is always difficult to maintain.
What was I going to say? I think it's kind of I feel like what Zoe was saying, it's kind of, there's no cutoff when it's school doesn't really end. It's kind of just the bell rings and we leave school, but we don't really. It's just it continues throughout the entire day. After school, we continue to get notifications for assignments that we have to do. We have tests we have to study for. It's we don't really get a break.
I would say real textbooks are better just because you can hold it and you have everything that you need right there without having to sift through a bunch of different articles or trying to dig through stuff that might not be relevant or true. But with the textbook, you're getting a sturdy foundation and a base, and you have everything you need right there. And you can access it at any time.
I think that with the internet, when you're reading textbooks on the internet, it's kind of an explosion of information because there's not just one textbook. There's hundreds of different articles about this one single subject. The internet shouldn't really be a place where you receive information like textbooks.
Yeah. I feel like the textbook should be used to get that foundation of knowledge, and then you should use the internet to solidify it in a way that works best for you. But if everyone is getting the same knowledge from the same basic foundation, I guess, from the same textbook, and they have access to everything, then they can go back and use the internet to solidify the knowledge in their own way that makes it easier for them to understand.
rather than trying to base all of your information off of a news article that might not be even relevant to what you're learning.
I think that technology has its perks in life, but also in school, it's not as easy to learn on a Chromebook or with technology rather than paper. So just learning on paper with pencil is just much easier than looking at a screen for 3 hours doing homework.
With me, I basically grew up with a lot of technology, but I would agree with what she said about how in the classroom it doesn't really help at all.
Taking notes on a Chromebook isn't going to help you learn. Writing them down and hearing them out loud is what's going to help you. I get taking tests on PowerSchool and everything. That's like, I understand because you don't want to waste paper with hundreds of copies of tests. But taking notes and just trying to actually learn the material, it's way easier to do on paper rather than a Chromebook.